The book Atomic Habits by James Clear needs no introduction. It's an international bestseller, sold millions of copies, and millions of people have benefited from it. I read this book a couple of years ago, and I thought it is great. It's brilliant. I thought I could use all the principles and change my life. Then life happened. 2 years later, I wanted to establish daily journaling as a habit. But the problem was I've forgotten most of what I read before. Understanding a bunch of concepts is one thing, but if you can't remember them and apply them where you need it, it's actually useless, right? This is where most of the book summaries fall short. They do a good job in explaining the concepts, but they don't allow you to lock it in your memory so that you can use whenever you need them. So that's where this GAMT book summary comes in. These are the main concepts from the book Atomic Habits. James Clear starts off by talking about a couple of concepts: identity and 1% improvement. He then describes that each habit is made up of 4 steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. And under each of these steps, he describes 4 to 6 simple but very powerful concepts. And then he goes through some advanced concepts as well at the end. Most of the book summaries at this point will start explaining all the concepts, and by the end of the video, you'd have forgotten most of it. We are going to do something different. We're going to use a new memory technique called GAMT. GAMT, or Glyph-Assisted Memory Technique, is a very simple technique. You take letters, change them into shapes or glyphs, and use these shapes or glyphs to build an image. So we're going to use GAMT and convert all this information into this. This GAMT contains all the essential concepts that's described in the book. I'm going to explain the GAMT and the individual concepts step by step in this video. So by the end of the video, you're not only going to understand the concepts very clearly, but you're also going to remember them effortlessly. Welcome to Campedia. This is Dr. Karthik, and for people who are new to this channel, I'm an assistant professor in anesthesiology working in Dublin, Ireland. This channel is all about the transformative power of GAMT, or Glyph-Assisted Memory Technique. It's a new memory technique which I believe is going to revolutionize learning like never before. Learning is not just about memorization, it's a multifaceted journey. In this channel, we focus all the way from creating a GAMT to applying the GAMT framework to developing effective recall strategies. As I mentioned before, I wanted to create a new habit, daily journaling. So I want to go along this journey with James Clear and try to establish clear routines and understand the principles behind them so that this habit becomes a permanent one. So you can think about a habit that you want to create and you can come along the journey as well. Okay, so here it is. This is the GAMT for the Atomic Habits by James Clear. So we have a box or a suitcase maybe, and with a lock here. So if you open the lock, you're going to find a magnifying glass. Now for Atomic Habits, you really need a microscope, but magnifying glass will do for the moment, okay? And you're using this magnifying glass to look at this flower, nice flower, okay? And you're going to look at the flower in detail, atomic level if you can, and then take notes on your clip pad. So, and all these things sit on a very strong table, just doubly enforced on the top and bottom of the top, and you have very strong legs and pretty strong foot. If you're able to remember this, you'll remember all the steps that you need to take to generate a new habit. When James talks about habit, he says habit is formed in 4 steps. The first step is what he calls cue. The cue is any piece of information that predicts a reward. Craving, the next one, is the motivational force behind any action. Response is the action you perform in relation to the craving, and the reward is what you get at the end of the habit. By modifying each step of the habit, we can either make the habit stick or go away. Before we jump into the 4 steps, there are 2 concepts that you need to understand here. Okay, so if you look at the table, there are 2 lines here. So this line here resembles the I, which stands for identity. This line here resembles the number 1, which stands for 1% improvement. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you get better 1% every day, you're going to be 37.7 times better by the end of the year. 37 times, that's massive, right? What if we keep doing it for 5 years and 10 years? So by 5 years, you're going to be 77 million times better. And by 10 years, you're going to be 10.4 quadrillion times, some crazy numbers better. This is the power of compounding. All you have to do is just do 1% better than yesterday. That's all you have to do. The power lies in the consistency. The next concept is identity. A lot of us approach change in the wrong way. We start with outcome and then plan strategies, which then finally changes our identity. What James suggests is to start from identity and work outwards. When you change your identity, it becomes part of you and you align your life accordingly. So, for example, if your outcome is that you want to run every day, the identity is I am a runner. So you go from running every day to I am a runner. If you're into dieting, if you want to reduce your weight, instead of saying I'm going to diet, you just change your identity to say that I'm a person who eats healthy consistently. So this is what he calls change of identity. How am I going to apply these concepts for daily journaling? So what I need to remember going into setting up this habit is all I have to do is do 1% better at daily journaling than the day before. That's all I have to do. And secondly, I want to create an identity for myself. The identity that I think will work for me here is that I am a learner. Daily journaling allows me to learn the lessons from my everyday experiences and become better. The first two concepts, the identity and one person, we have incorporated into our daily journaling habit. Next, we go to the cue. Cue is any bit of information that points to the reward, right, as we saw earlier. So this is the first step in habit formation. There are 6 concepts here that you need to understand. So this part of the GAMT, the suitcase, is all the 6 components that you need to remember and apply when you're trying to create a cue for any habit. So let's go through the GAMT now, okay? So this outline of the suitcase here resembles the letter O, which stands for make it obvious. This line of the suitcase here resembles the letter L, which stands for list, habit list. This, another letter L, which stands for list to, okay? The flap on the suitcase resembles the letter E, which stands for environment. And the age-old, the lock that's been there for centuries. This part of the lock, which resembles the letter P, which stands for place, and this part of the lock, which resembles the letter T, and that stands for time. Okay, so these are the 6 concepts that you need to understand and remember for the cue. So make it obvious, have list, list to, environment, place, and time. So let's see what each of these means. Make it obvious. That part is pretty straightforward. So the aim here is to make the cue very obvious. So how can you do that? There are a few ways of doing this. The good idea is to create what is called a habit list and list to. So habit list is the things that you do every day. So you're waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, eating breakfast, putting on shoes, going to work, etc. And the list to, what James Clear says, is the list of things that happen every day without fail. Sunrise, sunset, an email arrives, a text message arrives, or a WhatsApp message arrives, and you pick up the phone, for example. The song that you're hearing finishes. So these are the things that happen every single day. You can't call them habits, but these are things that happen consistently every single day, even though they can happen at random times of the day, but they still happen. So you first create a habit list and a second list. So when you want to create a new habit, try to identify any items in the habit list or the second list that you can tag this habit onto. This is called habit stacking. Now, if there are any habits that you cannot tag on to the existing habits, then what you need is place and a time. So that's what this P and T stands for. If you're going to say, I'm going to go running every day, you should say, I'm going to run on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock and from my home, and I'll do a 5K run. The last thing that you want to remember in the cue is the environment. So you should set the environment in such a way that the cues are very obvious. For example, if you want to practice playing guitar every day, don't keep the guitar in the storage room, but keep it in the living room or near the sofa where you can actually see it all the time. So let's take all these 6 principles and apply it to daily journaling. Okay, so daily journaling, okay, then my concept is I want to make it obvious. So I'm going to look at the habit list and list to in the day, and I'm trying to think of where I can tack this new habit on. I want to do journaling before I go to bed. That's when I charge my iPad. For me, the cue then would be whenever I charge an iPad, I need to do the journaling. So what I've done is I've created a new habit and I've tagged it onto an existing habit, which means that the time and place is already inbuilt when you stack a habit on top of another habit. So now I have a place, a time, I've linked it with another habit existing habit, and then the environment. So what I want to do is I want to keep the journal next to the place where I charge my iPad. So when I charge the iPad, I see the journal next. It reminds me of my habit of daily journaling. Okay, so I've neatly tied off the first step of the habit forming cue. Okay. So I hope you understand how remembering these 6 fundamental things in the cue helps you to apply this to any new habit that you want to create. So the GAMT is fantastic for that. Now we go on to the next step, which is craving. So craving is the underlying motive behind any new habit. So in craving, there are 5 concepts that you need to understand and apply when you're generating a new habit. This part of the magnifying glass resembles letter C, stands for close. This part resembles letter P, stands for pierce. This is another P here, stands for powerful. And the reflection of light inside the magnifying glass resembles letter T, which stands for temptation building. The small portion on top of the magnifying glass resembles letter U, inverted U, you can call it, for underlying motive. So what are these 5 things? So what James Clear says is that we follow 3 kinds of people in our life, or try to imitate 3 kinds of people in our life: the close, peers, and the powerful. If your close friend gets obese, there is a 57% chance that you're going to get obese as well. On the other hand, if your close friend slims down, you have a 33% chance of slimming down as well. The next is the peers. It's so easy to create a new habit if you're surrounded by people who are doing the same. For example, if you join a jazz club, the fact that playing jazz every day becomes normal. So in the same way, join a group of runners, then that becomes a normal activity. There's also a bit of peer pressure. There's an expectation for you to show up, etc. The next is powerful. Humans everywhere are drawn towards power, prestige, and status. We're drawn towards behavior that earns us admiration and respect and reward. We follow powerful people because we want to be powerful ourselves. So how can you use this for habit formation? Choose someone you respect, you consider as an inspirational figure with that habit. There is more likely chance that you'll actually try to imitate that habit. So the next point is called temptation bundling. So what James Clear says, that's very interesting, is that the want centers in the brain are much bigger than the like centers. The centers in brain for you wanting an ice cream is much more bigger than the centers that actually tell you that when you're eating the ice cream that, oh, I like it. It's the craving that kind of really causes this dopamine surge. And this dopamine surge sets a perfect milieu for you to reinforce the habit. How can you use it for habit formation? More probable behaviors reinforce less probable behaviors. So if you have a strong motivation to do something, you can tag along the new habit to that habit, so the motivational force pulls this new habit through as well. This, in some ways, similar to habit stacking. But in habit stacking, you use the existing habit as a cue. But here, in temptation bundling, you use the momentum of the existing action that you perform to carry the new habit. There's a subtle difference, but pretty similar. So the final concept is looking at the underlying motive. Every action has an underlying primitive motive. So connecting and bonding with others, posting on Facebook, win social acceptance and approval, post on Instagram. We have to reframe the motive to make it work for us. So exercise is not draining energy, it's actually building endurance. So saving is not sacrifice, but increasing the purchasing power for the next month. So I'm nervous because I'm excited. How are we going to apply these 5 principles in the daily journaling habit? So let's see that. Okay, so close. So what can I do? So probably I need to ask my wife to start journaling as well, because if there is a high chance if she starts journaling, my kids start journaling, I will do the journaling too, right? And peers, I'm going to find a journaling club and try to join it. In that way, the peer pressure will keep me motivated in performing this habit. The powerful. Okay, so I need to find an inspirational figure who has the habit of daily journaling. So I was looking through it. What I found was Dr. Abdul Kalam was a past president in India. He's an exceptional personality and a very inspirational figure. He used to do journaling. So yeah, so that serves as a very powerful imitator for me. So I'm going to copy him. What we've done is apply the 3 principles already into daily journaling. So the peers, power, and close. That's why remembering these concepts are very important, because it allows you to think about these concepts in your mind and apply them whenever you want them. The temptation bundling. So I already established that I'm going to link this habit to charging my iPad as a cue, right? So I can do a slightly different thing here. So if I don't charge the iPad, my entire workflow for the next day is gone. So I have a very strong motivation to charge the iPad every single night. So what I can say to myself is, I'm not allowed to charge the iPad unless I do the daily journaling. So that's kind of temptation bundling, kind of a reverse way, but it is. So I have a lot of temptation or a lot of motivation to charge my iPad, and I'm using that motivation to drive me into daily journaling. The last thing is underlying motive. So for journaling, the way I might rephrase it is, journaling is not another work. The place I capture the lessons that I learned during the day. The underlying motive here is learning and development. There you go. So we've done all the 5 components of craving. So we've done the sixth thing of Q already. So we've done the craving. Now we move on to the next part, which is the action itself. So the response. So this is the actual action that you perform. So this part of the GAMT, the flower that you're going to see under the microscope, has all the components that you need to remember for the response step of a habit formation. So basically 4 concepts. So let's see what they are. So this part of the GAMT resembles letter E, which stands for environment. Again, as we saw already, we have the environment here. The Q, we're going to have the environment again here in the response. And then the pollen grains here, the design of the pollen grains resembles letter T, which stands for 2-minute rule. This part of the flower resembles letter P, which stands for perfection, not perfection. And this, the leaves on underneath the flower, resembles letter R, stands for repetition. So repetition or perfection. This is a very nice concept that James Clear gives us. So he gives an example of a study conducted in the University of Florida. It's a study in a group of photography students. They divided them into 2 groups. In one group, they were asked to take as many photographs as they want in a month, right? And that is quantitative group. Second group, they were asked to produce 1 best photograph by the end of the month. Quantity group kept on capturing more and more pictures. They generated hundreds of pictures. And the quality group aimed to getting 1 perfect picture. At the end of 1 month, when they looked at the quality of the pictures taken by both groups, the quantity group won by a mile. So there is a clear message here. You shouldn't aim for perfection. All you have to do is repetition. So repetition is more important than perfection. I shouldn't aim to create a perfect journal entry. I just need to write a journal entry. That's it. Right? And the more you do, you keep improving on it, eventually you'll get there. Next point is 2-minute rule. This is a very interesting concept by James Clear. Each habit can be scaled down to a 2-minute version. So reading a book every night becomes reading 2 pages every night. Doing yoga for half an hour becomes taking out the yoga mat. Study for class becomes open my notes, so on and so forth. So when you scale this down to a 2-minute version, it becomes immediately doable. It becomes easy, so you have more chances of doing it. The next concept is environment. We saw in the Q, the first part of the habit formation, you need to make the cue obvious. You need to have the cue for the habit in the environment visible, so it reminds you of the habit. The same way, environment in this context of response is what makes the action easy. So you need to set up the environment to reduce friction. For example, if you want to draw more, have pencils, pen, charts, everything ready, accessible in your table so you can reach out whenever you want. If you want to exercise, set out your workout clothes the day before. If you want to improve your diet, chop a ton of vegetables and healthy fruits and put them into containers for you to access easily during the week. So basically what you're doing is you're reducing friction to perform the action that you want to perform. Okay, so let's apply these 3 rules to daily journaling. So the first thing is repetition, not perfection. So I need to remind myself that all I have to do is just write 1 or 2 lines in the journal. I don't want to be perfect. I just want to write journal. That's it. And automatically, if I focus on 1% improvement, as we saw earlier, I'm going to get better anyway. So I don't have to worry about that at all. The 2-minute rule. And so writing 2 pages of daily journal becomes writing a line in the journal. So all I want to do is just write 1 line in the journal. So basically I'm removing the friction and making it easy to perform. The environment. When we're talking about the environment in the queue, what I was telling you guys was that I'm going to keep the journal next to the charging station. Here, I'm going to keep the journal, but I'm also going to keep the pen on top of the journal. So I have the pen and the journal next to the charging area in my iPad. So there you go. So I implemented all the steps or the concepts in the response step of the new habit formation. All the steps we've described so far, the reverse of these can be applied to eliminate a bad habit. For example, if you want to reduce eating junk food, don't have junk food in your visible area. Don't even have junk food in your home. So make it difficult for yourself to actually access junk food. So the small things that we discussed all along, all of these principles can be applied in reverse to eliminate a bad habit. So now we completed the response step of the habit formation. Now we're going to go into the reward step of a new habit formation. So this here, the clipboard, has all the concepts that you need to remember and apply when you're creating a new habit. This part of the clip resembles the letter C, which actually stands for clip. Okay, let's go back to that later anyway. This part of the clip resembles the letter C, which is for cache. The design on the clip resembles the letter T, which stands for twice. Don't miss twice. And the lines here all resembles the letter I, which stands for immediate gratification. This outline of the clipboard again resembles the letter C, which stands for habit contract. These are the concepts that you need to remember and understand when you're working on the reward step of forming a new habit. So let's go into them. First is immediate gratification. Every habit we perform is for a reward. Reward is the ultimate gain that you expect from a habit. If you want to start building muscles, want to go to gym, you're not going to see the results the next day. In fact, most of the good habits, the results won't be obvious immediately. But our brain is tuned to instant gratification. And the second concept that we need to understand here is don't miss an habit twice. Going from 100 to 150 is 50% increase. From 150 to 100 is only 33% decline. It's not the good days that determine your success. It's your bad days where you persist with the habits is what determines your success. If you miss one day, it's fine. But if you miss twice, it's the start of a new habit. This is a very good concept to have in your mind when you're thinking about reward aspect of any habit. So there are a few ways where you can provide immediate or instant gratification if the action itself doesn't reward that. One of the ways that you can do is called habit tracking. So there are a few ways to track the habits. The clip, cache, and the contract, some of the examples, right? So these are just 3 examples. These can actually be used to build up on further different types of examples that you want to use. Clip is something physical. So it calls manual tracking and automatic tracking. So you can use any type of habit trackers. So you can use an online habit tracker, or you can use a physical one. He recommends using a physical one if you feel that habit is very important for you to persist. So for one example would be clip. So you have 2 jars and you put a bunch of clips in one jar, and every time you perform a habit, you move a clip from one jar to the empty jar and keep doing that. Right? This sense of completion of action gives you a bit of instant gratification after you complete a habit. It's the same thing with cash. You can say every time I don't buy chocolates, I'm going to put that money towards my holiday fund. Or every time I don't smoke, I'm going to put 10 euros towards my gym membership. Something like that. So in other words, you're trying to create cash as an incentive for you to either keep doing the habit or stop doing the habit. Habit contract is the other thing that James Clear talks about, where you can actually you can type in a contract and actually sign it. It gives you a bit of formal commitment. You can share it with your wife, share it with your friends, and say that you're committing for this, and if you don't obey the contract, I will do X, Y, Z, etc. One of the important concepts here is that your reward or the instant gratification you're trying to give yourself shouldn't negate the benefits of the action. For example, the benefits of following a healthy diet is not ice cream at the end of the day. We're going to apply these concepts to daily journaling. First is immediate gratification, and don't miss twice. So I need to find something that gives me instant gratification for daily journaling. Daily journaling is something that you realize the benefit down the line, but I want to feel good after writing a journal entry. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to use clip in a jar. I'm going to use it for 30 days first. I put 30 clips in one jar, move it to the other jar whenever I complete a journal entry. So that'll give me a bit of instant gratification after I complete the journal. The second thing is I don't want to miss twice. I'm going to remember that. I don't think I will need a cash or a contract for this habit for the moment. But yeah, so what I've done is applied these principles into my habit of daily journaling. There you go. You complete all the 4 steps in the Atomic Habits by James Clear. And we have looked at all the concepts. I think we remember all the concepts now. The suitcase, the magnifying glass, the flower, and the clipboard. So it's a really small section remains, which is the advanced tactics. When you look at advanced concepts, there are a few of them. So the table here kind of really summarizes all the advanced concepts. We already saw the identity, the line here on the table. And we already saw the 1% improvement before at the start of the video. So the next advanced concept is A, the table, the outline of the table, and the 2 legs of the table resembles letter A, and it stands for align with abilities. This foot of the table resembles letter D, it stands for disappointment, a value of disappointment. This resembles another D, it stands for deliberate practice. Align with abilities. So he gives a very nice example of 2 Olympians. One is Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, and who is 6 feet 4 inches tall. And then there's another Moroccan runner, mid-distance runner, who also won a lot of Olympic medals, called El Gorojo, and he is 5 feet 9. And I was reading the book, I was like, okay, where is he going with this? What James Clear highlights here is, even though Phelps was 6 foot 4, L was 5 foot 9, they both have same leg lengths. Phelps had a longer torso, while L had longer legs, relatively speaking. So Phelps' body is perfect for swimming, whereas L's body is perfect for running. Now James observes that if they swapped their careers, if L wanted to become a swimmer and Phelps wanted to become a runner, they wouldn't have become as successful as they did in their fields. So the important thing here is to understand what comes naturally easy to you, what's easy for you but others find it difficult, and focus your effort on improving that. So you need to align your effort with your abilities. It's not that genes tell you whether you're going to be successful or not. Genes tell you where you have to work hard. It's one of the very powerful concepts that you want to take with you. Next is the value of disappointment. So when you're starting a new habit, You expect the results to follow a linear pattern like this. You want the improvement to be linear. But what happens typically is you start a habit and you don't see any improvement before it starts going up. So the initial period where you actually don't see any obvious results, but they're building up, is called the valley of disappointment. So once you build up to a point where the benefits are obvious, then you don't have to do all the other things surrounding the habit. That itself is enough to carry the habit further. Okay. The other important concept that James puts to us here is what is called a deliberate practice. In the context of habit formation, the deliberate practice means that you review the goals every once in a while, every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. At the end of the year, you sit down and say, okay, what are the habits I tried to create this year? What went well? What didn't go? Why it didn't go? This sort of self-appraisal is so important for any new habit formation, or for any habit formation for that matter. These are 3 advanced concepts that actually are worth remembering, I think. So align with abilities, valley of disappointment, deliberate practice. What we've done is condense the entire Atomic Habit book into this GAMT of a suitcase, a magnifying glass, sunflower, a clipboard, and a very strong table. This memory technique is new and unique, and it's going to really transform the way you learn. If you like this book summary, and if you want more GAMT book summaries, please let us know in the comments below. I think all the books should have a GAMT summary, right? I definitely think so. The ways in which you can apply this memory techniques are limitless. Students can use for any high-stakes exams. Professionals can use for all the certification exams. Educators can use it to improve retention of the content. Bookmakers can actually include this in their book. You can actually create GAMTs and sell it in the GAMT store, which I have in my website. So those are lots of benefits here. So keep watching. I've created more videos on this technique, and the links to them is given in the description below. The GAMT that I described today is given in the Notion page, and that's given in the description below as well. We'll see you again. Till then, learn it, GAMT it.
Learn it, GAMT it, feel the beat. In every learning zone, you'll reach the feed. From glyphs to riches, you ditch the glitches. You get down to learning and you flip the switches.